Alright, in this part, I will show you how to configure IPv4 static and default routes. So what you have to know in static route, there are two ways for you to configure static route. The first way is by using recursive static route, and the second way is by using directly attached static route. So what is the difference between recursive static route and directly attached static route? So by using recursive static route, you will use the next hop IP address, okay, as to send the packet to the destination, okay. But in directly attached static route, you will use exit interface for the packet to be sent to the destination. So that's the difference. First one, by recursive static route using next hop IP address to send the packet, while the directly attached static route will use the exit interface to send the packet to the destination. Okay, so in this lab, you can refer to the topology here, the same topology. I have to say that we will use the same topology throughout the semester. Okay, so in this topology, what I will do is in the each of the router, I will implement different static route. Okay, so for R3, okay, so for R3, I will implement static routing using recursive static method. Okay, on the ISP, I will implement the static routing using directly attached static route, and on R1, I will implement static routing using default route. So basically, I will write it down here. So R3, I will use recursive. So on recursive, we will use next hop address. On ISP, I will use directly attached, where we will use the exit interface to send the packet to the destination, and on R1, I will use default route. So in the lab, there is a question on part 3 where you will need to answer several questions, okay, and evaluate the requirement and the needs for static routing. So you might do that first before submitting. So now, definitely you have to configure basic configuration on ISP, configure the routing interface, right? And you have to give IP address to R1, R2, ISP, and also R3. So I already configure mine, so you can configure it by yourself on RSP and also R3. So let me do configuration for R3 first. So you can refer on part 4 for static routing, part 4, page 13. Okay. So I will start configuring. So the command to configure is IP route. Okay, before you configure, you have to determine what are the remote network for R3. So for R3, the remote network are this network 200.200.200.0, VLAN 10, 192.168.1.0, and also 192.168.1.128. So those are the 3 remote network for R3. So this network 200.200.200.4, 172 network, all are the neighbors of R3. So we don't have to specify that particular networks. Okay. So now I will do for first route, which is 200. First network, which is 200.200.200. 200.0, 5.255.255.252, and then because on R3 we use recursive static route, so we will use the next hop IP address. So the next hop IP address, so S001 for R3 is 200.200.200.5, and S001 for ISP is 200.200.200.6. So we will use this. We will use the IP address, the next IP address, which is the S001 on ISP router. Okay. So 200.200.200.6. So press enter. Right. Then we will do the same for VLAN 10 and also VLAN 20. So IP root 200.200.200. Oh, sorry, VLAN 10 is 192.168.1.0 and the CIDR is /25. So the subnet mask is 255.255.255.128. And the next hop IP address is the same, which is 200.200.200.6. Enter. And the last one, the last network is 192.168.1.128. And the subnet mask is /20. The CIDR is /28, where the subnet mask is 255.255.255.240. And the next hop IP address is 200.200.200.6. So the next hop IP address will be the same because the direction, the packet will be directed through the same direction. Okay. If the packet are going to different direction, so you might have different next hop IP address. Now, once we are done with R3, let us perform this directly attached static root on ISP. The same way, which is the first thing you need to do, is you have to determine the remote network of the ISP. So 200 network is all the neighbors of the ISP. So the remote network is 192 network and also the 172 network. But the thing is, because we haven't configured any inter-VLAN configuration on the 172 network, so I won't include that in the configurations. I will only focus on the VLAN 10 and VLAN 20 of 192 network. So on the ISP, I already said that I will configure the directly attached static root. So we just write the command first, IP root, and then determine what are the remote network, which is 192.168.1.0, and then subnet mask is /25, 255.255.255.128, and then here you need to specify the exit interface. So basically, on if the packet are going through this direction, okay, so the exit interface of the ISP is S00, S000. If the packet is going to 172 network, so the exit interface S001. So because we want to connect to the 192 network, so the exit interface is S0/0/0. Okay. So we write down here S0/0/0, enter. Don't worry about the warning here, warning message here, because we are not specifying the next hop IP address. That's why it says that we are configuring root without the gateway. So the next part is we want to connect to the next VLAN, that is VLAN 20. So 192.168.1.128. And the CIDR is /28. So for /28, the subnet mask is 255.255.255. Extra 255. So .240, and the exit interface is /0/0/0. All right. So we have done configuration for these two remote network for ISP. So if I were to view back, so I just start do show run. So press more, and you can see at the bottom here, this is the route that you have just configured. Okay. Next, I will configure default route on R1. So to configure the default route on R1 is very easy. The thing is, on R1, when you configure the default route on R1, you do not have to identify the remote network. So because what happened is, when any of the host, internal host, send a packet to remote network, so they will go through the router's interface, and it will be forwarded using default route. It will be forwarded to the ISP, and in the ISP we already have the information of the remote network. So you don't. So ISP will use the static route that has been configured on the router to reroute the packet to the destination. Okay, so now on R1, I will configure the default route. So default is very easy. So we don't have to specify the remote network. We just type 0.0.0.0 for remote network, and then for the subnet mask part, we just type 0.0.0.0. But we have to identify the exit interface. So the exit interface, the internal network will go through the S00 interface to go to the any remote network here. So we just use the S0/0/0 as the exit interface. So just press enter. Now, let us try. Okay. Oh, this is the thing that I forgot to do in the beginning. In the beginning, actually, you have to test the connection, the connectivity between PC0 to R3. So I forgot to try that earlier on, but essentially, if you try it, so basically there will be no connectivity between PC0 or PC1 to the remote network, which is 200.200.4 network. Okay, but regardless, we will try. I think previously I have made some testing to the 200 network. See, previously, so you see, I've tried to ping the R3 200.200.200.5, so the destination host is unreachable because I have not configured any static routing on any of the routers, be it ISP or R1 or R3. So now I will try to ping again. So ping 200.200.200.5, so it should work here. So now you see the connection, the ping between the PC0 to the router's R3 interface, which is the remote network for VLAN 10, is successful. And you can also try for the other PCs, which is on VLAN 20, ping 200.200.200.5. So it is also successful. So with the configuration, now you are able to configure static route that we have two types, which is recursive static and also the directly attached static, and the other type is the default routes.